Hello and welcome everybody to our extended disc mini webinar. Today we are going to be talking about our coworker Ian up in the cartoon picture in the upper right hand corner. And we'll be talking about an overview of our eye styles. My name is Amy Lipinski and I'm a senior trainer here at Extended Disc North America. And with me today is Marku. So welcome, Marku.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome everybody. So great to have you joining us this webinar.
We will be recording the webinar as always, and we do not have time for live questions since it is just a 15-minute webinar, but there is a Q&A panel in your control panel there that you are able to enter in your questions, because we do love to hear from you, and if we don't have time to answer it today during the webinar, we will be sure to follow up with you. So let's take a look at the eye styles. And before we talk about any of our styles, we always want to set it up in that when we approach our styles in their purest form, our key points, right? Because we're complex human beings. So we can't all just fit neatly into a box. So when we talk about our eye style in the purest form, remember, none of the styles are better or worse. There's no good or bad. They all have similarities. They all have differences. They all have strengths, and they all have room to improve. It's never that sole criteria to make a decision, and we're not measuring your skills, experience, attitude, or knowledge. And I think the most important piece is that we're all a combination of all four styles.
That is true, and you and I, Amy, talked right before this webinar is that both of us are low eye styles.
Absolutely.
We are not eye styles, so if you're an eye style, here are two low eye styles talking about eye styles. But yes, it's really important for us to always remember that we are combinations of all four styles. And like for me, the eye style is the lowest of the four. And in fact, I think it would be very important for other people to know that thing about me, because if you approach me as a high eye style person, it may take a little while for us to be able to connect, because eye style is just not comfortable for me. I really have to spend a lot of energy to get out of that comfort zone to interact with eye styles.
Yes, all the styles have their own approach to communications and interactions.
And even for me, that my eye style is low, it doesn't mean that I don't have any eye style.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened to be the lowest of the four styles.
Yes, and it'll show up differently and look differently because of the amount of eye style that you have within that relationship to the other quadrants.
Exactly.
So let's talk more about these eye styles. They are on our active axes and they are people oriented. So what do they look like? Well, here is a slide that kind of shows you Ian, right? When we think about what do our eyes focus on, what they focus most on is being around people. They love to be around people. And even when we look at the list of words that are on our left-hand side here, I don't see one of those words that wouldn't really be around a person, or exciting and positive and an emotion tied to it, because that embodies our eye styles.
Yeah, I think when eye style walks in the room, most people will notice the eye style because they have such an energy, enthusiasm, and they really kind of light up the room. That's what I love most about the eye styles, that they have that energy of making sure that everybody's having a good time, everybody's having fun, everybody's doing things that we are supposed to do together. So when eye style walks in the room, you will notice that.
And they're very inclusive. They won't leave anybody out. They'll make sure everybody in the room is part of the conversation and having fun.
That's a great point. In fact, if they notice somebody's not part of the group, they will make an extra effort to make sure that they will bring that person in.
So when we think about the fear, it's no surprise their fear is social rejection, right? Our eyes like to be liked.
They really want to be liked, and sometimes to a fault. Sometimes they may assign kind of an intent behind somebody not being as approachable in their eyes. So they try to maybe sometimes spend too much effort in making sure everybody likes them. But yeah, social rejection for sure is something that they sometimes have to deal with and sometimes even struggle with.
Yeah. And when we think about how eyes show up under pressure, I mean, we always say that we become more of who we are under pressure. So iStyles tend to become more people oriented. They focus on people and feelings and emotions, kind of like what you were just describing, right? With that social rejection. And so to the rest of the styles, oftentimes they appear disorganized because they're going more towards people than the details and tasks.
For sure, there's no secret that iStyles are more people oriented than task oriented. So for others who are more task oriented, who value focusing on details and getting things done in a very specific way, iStyles may appear as disorganized. Details are not that comfortable for iStyle. So if you happen to be an iStyle, focusing on details and making sure you do follow up on things, it's really important for you to think about and focus on.
Yes. And then we've already talked about their attitude towards change and action. It's all fun. So, Marku, we were talking before we got on our webinar. What is the one dead giveaway that you've met an iStyle when you first meet someone?
iStyles, like I said, you notice when they walk in the room. You notice when they have entered the party. They are the
They are the party.
They are the party, exactly. they just command attention. It's a fantastic thing being like for me, like we talked about being low iStyles. I would love to have that energy and being able to attract people around me. iStyles do that every single time with ease, with comfort. They're just energized by that.
And I do have to say, as a low iStyle, I enjoy going to the party with an iStyle because it takes the pressure off of
you.
me.
Right.
Yes. They tend to be excited, right? They have that animated body language when they're talking, and they talk a lot because they enjoy talking.
They talk a lot. They are the ones who laugh at their own jokes. The jokes make their own jokes funnier because they laugh at their own jokes. But there's that energy, and this is so natural and comfortable, making sure that everybody's included and engaged.
And when you think about our iStyles in comparison to others too, they don't want that routine. They want variety. They want change. They don't want to do the same thing day in and day out. And they like to just make it spontaneous and fun.
Yeah, routine is really, it's like poison for iStyles. They want things to change. It needs to be different every day. And they're always looking for better ways to doing things. We talked about D-Styles last week in our webinar. And I think one of the things for D and iStyles in general is to remember that sometimes things will take a little while for others to catch on. So if you're a D, if you're an iStyle, when you have some new initiative, just remember that it may take some time for others to catch up with your vision,
right?
And let it kind of just take some while to things to kind of develop and grow. So if you're an iStyle, make sure you don't forget that because it may kind of hold your performance back.
Yeah. And the other one that kind of stands out to me here, which is oftentimes my dead giveaway that I've met in iStyle, they're more comfortable with personal space or that physical contact. I tend to joke they're the huggers of a group because they're the ones that just tend to come up and say, I'm a hugger, right?
Right.
Because they're more comfortable with that kind of physical contact. They might put the hand on the shoulder or the forearm. You know, those personal space lines sometimes are blurred with your iStyles.
Yeah, iStyles are definitely more, like we talked about, people oriented. So so they tend to have a smaller physical space that they're comfortable with. If you are dealing with the I and C style and they're together, sometimes you notice the differences in their preferences when it comes to that physical space.
Yes. So when we think about an iStyle and their communication style, we've talked that they're animated, talkative. One thing that we haven't mentioned, I don't think, is that oftentimes they're not really direct. You know, our iStyles do have an assertiveness about them, but they're not often direct because they want to focus on the positive. So sometimes they kind of skirt an issue to try to avoid any negative points about it.
So true. Negative topics and having a potential conversation about something that could be an unpleasant conversation, is not comfortable for eye style. So they tend to kind of stay away from that. In fact, I think you told me about a story just a couple of days ago that you had a boss like this who was an eye style.
I did, because the other thing with them not being direct is a lot of them thinking out loud as they speak. So I reported to an eye style, and we used to meet, and she would talk for 30 minutes. And I still pride myself in being able to extract information and get my to dos out of somebody talking. And she would talk for 30 minutes and I would be lost. I would have no idea what I was supposed to do next, or really what we decided on, or kind of any summation of the conversation. And luckily, we both had disc knowledge, and I approached her with this conversation to say, I'm sorry, but your style is completely opposite from mine.
Right.
And I need you, after you've talked, to just help me organize those thoughts into actionable to dos for me. So it was a great end story in that we were able to do that and get both of our needs met.
I think sometimes eye styles, a great story, but thanks for sharing that, is that with eye styles is that they kind of may sometimes speak at the same time as they think.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that we talk about that wanting to be accepted by others and fear of social rejection. Sometimes that can get in the way of how they communicate their message. And if you're an eye style, just know that people do love you because their enthusiasm, it is so
Contagious.
exactly.
Yes.
But sometimes it's okay to be direct. You can't always please everybody. Sometimes your message will upset some people. And if
Mm-hmm.
you get comfortable with that, boy, you can be so successful.
And, another thing that we had talked about, Marku, before jumping on the call was just the fact that being a low I style, I appreciate the positivity that they bring. I tend to look towards the negative. That's not going to work, right? This isn't how we do it. And nope, not possible. But they bring such optimism and positivity to everything that you buy into it. You get excited
Right.
about it and you start believing it is possible.
Yeah, without a doubt, eye styles are the most optimistic of all for these styles. They don't see the half as being half empty. It's overflowing. So they always will find a way to make things work. And when you really think about it, how valuable is that trait? Getting people excited about what we are going to do, what's going to happen next, and what the results could be is fantastic.
Absolutely. So, some tips for Ian or our other eye styles who might be listening in today. One of them is just be more direct, right? We were talking about them kind of maybe skirting around issues,
Yeah.
not being afraid to be more direct. Maybe, I hate to say it, but plan a little before you speak or meet so that you have something in place and you can be direct and stick to that, because that will be an adjustment you could make to help you be more direct.
Yeah, obviously this will take a little bit of energy to get out of your comfort zone as an eye style,
Right.
but I think the main thing would be that you you cannot please everybody. Sometimes you will
No.
say something that will upset somebody. Just understand that that's a fact of life, and when you get comfortable with that, and then you use your energy and enthusiasm, you're going to be very effective. Eye styles are
Mm-hmm.
really, think about eye styles in sales, leadership, customer service, so many different roles, how much value they can bring.
Absolutely. And when we think about other tips, sometimes just listening more, right? Because there's a lot of value, but when we recognize, the essence of our extended disc assessments is to take us to the 4 steps to adjust our style. So
Right.
our eyes, we want them to embrace who they are and use and leverage their strengths, but making just some of these smaller adjustments, maybe slowing it down so that others get on board with it, because your energy will be contagious, right? And they will get on board. It just might take some extra time.
Well said. Nothing to add to that. That's perfect.
So, any final thoughts about Ian or our eye styles?
Final thoughts. I think final thoughts are that thank you for joining this webinar. Hopefully you found this helpful. Go to extendedthis.org and click on the events tab, which is on the top right corner. You can
Mm-hmm.
sign up for additional webinars. And even if you cannot attend, we'll send you the recording so you can listen at your convenience.
And next week, we will be taking a look at Sam, our S-Style coworker, on Wednesday, February 19th from 3 to 3:15 Central Standard Time. And like Marku said, you can go ahead and sign up for that on our Extended Disc website. And you can always email us at info@extendeddisc.org. And thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, everybody.